On this episode, join Andy and John as they discuss Bizarro Lucha's The Ghost in the Machine. Welcome to the road home from wrestling.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors, and it's the only way I live in cars.
All right, well, we're not headed home, but we're hanging out, talking about Bizarro Lucha. My name's Andy. I'm coming to you live to tape from the world headquarters of the world. And I got John with me, and you're at the satellite headquarters. How you doing, John?
I am not doing too bad. I am trying to ration my food as much as possible, and I'm doing so good that I've only ate one pack of oatmeal and had one sandwich, and it's been 3 days.
Wow, that seems excessive. Why are you doing that?
Well, because I can still go outside right now, technically. So I've been trying to still give businesses some, revenue. So I try to go outside and at least buy food if I can.
Now, the reason what you're talking about here is if you're listening to this in the future or in the past, this is we are right in the midst of the coronavirus phenomenon that's going on in the United States. And John, can you break down real quick for us how that has affected pro wrestling and how this affected our decision to go to Bizarro Lucha this past Sunday?
Yeah, so about last week, which would have been March 11th or 12th, a lot of these states started mandating regulations on size of crowds. And so our governor in Ohio, Mike DeWine, decided to regulate it to only 100 people in a crowd. And whereas Indiana and Kentucky, which I'm not sure they're governors, but they regulated it to 250 people. And then a lot of ticketed sporting events or casinos and stuff like that started to get shut down. And so Ohio pretty much shut everything down. But the other two states kind of said, it's not a good idea. And so a lot of companies had to pretty much have their hands forced, and they had to kind of cancel shows or postpone them to later dates, unfortunately.
And we had planned to go to our second Bizarro Lucha show in Indianapolis. And unfortunately, I'm the one who called it. I just felt like it was the right thing to do to not go. And I'm feeling pretty good about that decision. I think that was the right thing to do. And I just want to let everyone know at Bizarro Lucha, thank you, because we reached out to them and asked them, hey, can we get a refund or can we move this ticket that we purchased to a future show? And they were like, either one, whatever works for you. This fucking sucks. We want to help everybody out. So that was great, and we really appreciate that. But the road home from wrestling still has to create content. We still got to do this for folks. We have a responsibility. The folks that are out there that are quarantined, that have nothing to do and no wrestling, no live wrestling to watch. So, John, how did we watch this?
We both watched it live on Independent Wrestling TV, and it was kind of nice. It was like watching a pay-per-view at home that you would typically do with a WWE or an AEW, but instead it was an independent show, which I would have never fathomed that I would be doing that on a Sunday night at home. And so it was really cool to be able to do that for a change.
I'm a big fan of the IWTV app, and we have no affiliation with them whatsoever. In fact, I even reached out to them and tried to get a promo code, and they just didn't respond. So whatever, I don't have any beef with them, but I am a big fan of this thing, and I think this thing's going to be bigger and bigger. And through this whole coronavirus, this is going to be a way for us to continue to create content that's, not necessarily up to date because there's no new shows, but we can go back and watch some other stuff and review it. So, I think this will be something that we do. If you guys have any suggestions on particular shows you'd like us to review, please send those to us at the Road Home FW on all social media platforms, except for the ones the kids use. I don't know, John, you about ready to get into this, or you got any other comments or any things you want to let the folks know about?
I don't think so. I think I'm ready to go.
Okay, well, we got a big thing for you to talk about later, and I can't wait to talk about it. So I know you're itching to talk about it too. There's a big reason why missing this show was a huge deal, and but we'll get to that a little later. Now, we did get a pre-show. Now, unfortunately, the pre-show was not aired on IWTV because that's why it's a fucking pre-show. But tell us, John, who was in the first pre-show match?
Our first pre-show match was Dmitry Alexandrov against Dean Jacobs. And I don't really know much about the match. I just know how it played out.
Well, how did it play out?
Dmitry was able to beat Dean Jacobs. I'm not familiar with either of these two guys. Are you, Dean or Andy?
Yeah, I'm not Dean, but I wish I was Dean. Dean's awesome. Dean Jacobs is a guy that we saw. I believe we saw him at the arena once when we went there to an ill-fated show that doesn't exist anymore. And I think I've definitely seen him at IWA Mid-South too. So he's a guy that's from Freelance. I think both these guys are from Freelance. So it's good to see them, And then, but hopefully it was a good match. We didn't get to see it. This is why you want to go to these shows, because you get to see these kinds of pre-show type situations. And then after that, we had your pre-show main event. And who was in the pre-show main event, John?
The pre-show main event was Alice Crawley taking on Blair Onyx and Elena Black in a three-way dance.
That's right. Who won?
Alice Crawley.
Alice Crowley was at the last show we were at, but she was kind of just hanging out backstage, just taking it all in, just showing her face, being like, hey, man, maybe next time I'll get on the pre-show. And then the time after that, maybe I'll win the title. Who knows, So good to see, three young ladies getting a chance to, be on this show. And I'm sure it was awesome. Alice Crowley's really good. Any comments or anything before we get into the main show, John?
Alice is the only one of the three that I'm kind of familiar with, and that's mostly because I know she's very good at pointing to the sky as if she's Sabu. But she's pretty good. The few matches I've seen of her, I think she's got a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see where she goes in the future.
Yeah, she's got a long way to go too, as far as I think she's 17 or something. So, these kids that start this young, in a lot of ways, they kind of have a leg up on everybody because, when they turn 18 and then go into some of these other states that, like Kentucky and Ohio and, some of the other bigger states, they can immediately already have a name built for themselves and in a crowd that's installed, basically. So that's a pretty good deal, and that hard work's going to pay off. So, yeah. After that, we had the main show, and Mr. Bizarro welcomes us to the show. He screams a lot in the microphone, and we get John. One of your favorite guys is in this opening match. Who's in the opening match?
Formulation 003 Gravity. And he comes out with Dr. Magnanimous.
Nice, John. Wow. Holy shit. Can't believe it. And who was Gravity all up against here in this match?
He was taking on probably one of the fastest men I've ever seen in wrestling, Hyperstrike.
Hyperstreak.
Yeah. I nailed Magnanimous, but I couldn't nail Hyperstreak.
I don't understand. So when I saw Hyperstreak, I was like, this guy's got to be Lewis Linden in a mask. And then I started looking around, and no, his name's Hyperstreak, and that's who he is. I thought for sure, because Lewis Linden's a guy that's kind of been around a long time, and they kind of have the same build and, a lot of the same kind of style. But I think it's Hyperstreak. Now you got me doing. He's a little younger, and he's from California. And, man, I was really impressed with him. What'd you think about him?
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked his get-up. So he's got a mask, which is not uncommon for a lot of people at Bizarro Lucha. And his mask, though, kind of looks like an old-timey aviation helmet, where it's kind of got the flappy wings and it's got the goggles, and he's got the full face covered. And I think I'm assuming he flew himself here from California. It only makes sense.
And boy, are his arms tired.
Right.
Now, yeah, he's wearing the outfit basically that Snoopy wears when he attacks the Red Baron in his dreams, So, except it covers his whole face. So, he's awesome. Now, Formulation 003 Gravity is a guy that looks so familiar. And he's got this, star across his face. You can't see his eyes. I don't even know how the guy can see. You think he even has eyes?
He probably has one giant eye. He might be a Cyclops, and that's why there's he can see out of the center of that star because the star is so big on the mask. But that's what I'm assuming.
That would be smart if you had one giant eye. That would be such a target for other wrestlers to eye poke you. So, if you have that, you want to cover that up. That makes a lot of sense. I get it.
Right.
So
and now also probably scare a lot of kids away if they see that you only have one eye because most people aren't used to Cyclops. So
well, but this Gravity guy, he came out flipping everybody off, and he just seemed like a real fucking asshole. And Hyperstreak was like you said, he was so fast, it was unreal. I thought this match was awesome. Both guys are bumping hard as fuck. We had super high work rate match with high flying type wrestlers doing high flying type stuff. Is there anything other than them doing every move in existence? What kind of spots did you like, John?
So the things that I kind of got nervous about during this match is one of the things at Bizarro Lucha is that there's no ring barriers, there's no pads on the outside of the ring. It's just ring and then concrete. And so these guys kept diving off the ring at each other on the outside, landing on the concrete, almost hitting fans in the crowd, which back up, if the action's coming your way, it probably is, as we always get noted. But then there was a point where they just kept diving out of the ring. They would dive out, hit the guy, then run back in, dive back out. They did this multiple times, and it was really cool to watch and see because they both kind of did it at various times. And then they started using the ring around them, the outside environment. There's this huge yellow pole that they kept throwing each other into. But I think the move that kind of caught me the most off guard and literally my jaw dropped is Hyperstreak is bouncing off the ropes. He's running home, and then out of nowhere, Gravity just gets up and hits this massive Spanish fly out of nowhere. That honestly should have finished the match, but Hyperstreak's fast. He got his shoulder up before he counted 3.
Yeah, one little beef I do have with this show tonight is we did, a lot of the matches had the same formula, and part of that formula is towards the end of the match, the guy who's going to lose hits some gigantic, out-of-control move on the guy who's going to win, and the guy who's going to win kicks out at 1, or the other way around. The point is the guy who loses gets his, he kicks out of some giant move to make sure that he looks strong, So there was a lot of that happened in this show, so we did have a similar kind of thing throughout all the singles matches, but I really enjoyed this. I thought that one of the things I really liked about this was just the effort that the guys put in. When they're just hitting the ropes, they're hitting the ropes as hard as they could. They're running hard. They're running fast. They're jumping high. Just every little tiny thing that, some guys, and I'm not naming names or anything, but some guys don't put all that effort into it. They just really were out there to do everything they could to steal the show. And I thought that was pretty admirable. So any other spots in this match you wanna kind of talk about?
Hyperstreak was able to hit so he was standing on the second rope over by the turnbuckle, but not in the turnbuckle, but on the side of the ropes. He was able to bounce off that and hit a Hurricane Rana that was really nice looking.
Guy's awesome, right? I definitely want to see more of that guy. I immediately went and started following him on social media so we can kind of see where we can catch him again in the future if wrestling ever exists again, But towards the end, we did have Hyperstreak get crotched on the ropes. My notes say he got crocheted on the ropes, but that's not what happened. That would be different, But who won, Dean? Or see, now you're Dean. We're all Dean.
So, like you said, Hyperstreak gets crotched on the ropes, and as he falls down, Gravity goes to the top and tries to hit a shooting star press, but misses, and Hyperstreak is able to capitalize on that and he goes up to the top rope. Gravity follows him, and he's able to kind of trick him and hit him with a running sit-out power bomb for the victory.
That move, now people are calling it the Spirit Bomb because of Keith Lee and some of the All Japan stuff, and I've heard it called a Liger Bomb. I've heard it called all this stuff. I just like to call it a sit-out power bomb, so I keep myself out of trouble with wrestlers who are like, "That's that move. What the hell?" So. But what'd you think, John? Pretty good, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a really stellar opening match, and I was honestly a little nervous to see how the rest of the card would go following this because it was so good.
Well, every show is their best show, John. So, every match is their best match. So, one of the things, too, I wanted to mention is that it was clear to me that, first of all, they had not drawn the same numbers of fans that they did at the last show. But that's to be expected, you know what I mean? Just because of the situation that was going on. It's a lot of the same faces, though, that we saw at the last show. And something that I really respect, Bizarro Lucha did this, so did Sup Graps when they had a show over the weekend, is they kept the fans, well, not all the fans followed this rule, but it seemed to me that they had a rule to stay about 6 feet away from the ring because the CDC has recommended that folks stay 6 feet away from each other. That makes a lot of sense. And also the wrestlers were not high-fiving fans, and wasn't a lot of contact between the wrestlers and fans, which I really appreciate. And that's smart stuff. It's a good way to do this and still get away with doing this show, because it was touch and go there for a while. I was convinced this would get canceled, and basically 2 hours after the show ended, they closed all the restaurants and everything in Indiana anyway. So, it is what it is. But all right, John. Well, what was the next match?
Our next match was an 8-person elimination match. So I guess it's like a Survivor Series style match. It was Formulation 001 Dream Boy, Sean Kemp and Jonathan Wolf of IFHY, along with Haley Cromwell. She's a witch,
Mm-hmm.
And they were taking on Pizza Cat, Dino Dude, Adam Slade, and Dakota. What team do they make up?
I think they're called Smack. Is that right?
Yeah, it sounds right. SMA or SMACC, something like that.
It's either that or 2 A's. I don't know. I don't know what it stands for. I just like them. They're awesome. The crowd fucking loves them. And and that group is like punk rock. The group, like babyface punk rock. That's what they are. But Formulation 001 Dream Boy. He looks really familiar too. But I didn't recognize him. He looks a lot like somebody I know, but he wasn't swaying in place, and he didn't smell like beer. So I was it's definitely not who I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah, because I don't think, the venue where this takes place is a bar, but a lot of these guys with having masks on, I don't think they can drink. And so Dream Boy definitely can't drink. He doesn't have a mouth hole, so...
That's a problem. Well, yeah. Who knows? Who knows what these formulations do to your face? We don't know because we don't get to see their faces. Even Dr. Magnanimous himself has a mask on. So, who knows? These guys could be mutated freaks under these masks. We would have no idea. And hopefully we never find out, because whoever does that to him is going to get disqualified, because that's the only way you can get DQ'd at Bizarro Lucha. So, now, I didn't take a ton of notes on this other than, the eliminations. And one thing I wanted to mention, though, is that we got to see something in this match that we got to see last time we were there. And I kind of want to see this I want a 120-minute Iron Person match, Jonathan Wolf versus Pizza Cat. That's what I want. Because those two in the ring together is fucking magic every time. And I love it. And every time they got in the ring together, I just thought it was awesome. What'd you think?
About that Iron Man match, or just the
whatever.
Match? I thought the match at times a little bit of a, for lack of a better term, a clusterfuck. The action was just kind of all over the place because I didn't know who was in and out, and with there not being a DQ rule, there was no tag rule, which means anybody can just run wild if they want to. But for the most part, everybody kind of got their stuff in, and it was good to see a lot of it. it was just a little chaotic at times.
Especially at the end. The end was like, what? So, like, I don't even know. I mean, like I said, people like the idea with this kind of match is that you have to eliminate the entire other team, right? Well, the Dino Dude and his group, they win, which we'll talk about here in a second how that all happened. But they didn't eliminate all the other. I don't know.
They
was
didn't
so
eliminate half the team.
Yeah, because like they brawled to the back or something. I don't know. It was a little confusing, and I was also kind of confused as to who was on which team at first and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was kind of a mess a little bit. You're right, but it was fun. You got any spots you want to talk about, or should we start getting into some of these eliminations?
Yeah. So at one point, everybody gets the deal. Adam Slade literally hits the deal on every single person on the other team, or like his opponents. And eventually he hits Cromwell with like an inverted deal. Is like I can describe it. He hits it twice, and I legitimately text Andy and was like, "Is she dead? Like she's got to be dead, right?" He like snapped her neck. But she started moving again, so she wasn't dead, but it like she was.
I have a little gripe to throw out there real quick. And sometimes we may have been guilty of this in the past at times and stuff like that, but I don't think so. I think it's funny when fans, say something's dangerous. Or like, for example, earlier in the week, there was a match with Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak, or that was on, it was last week or whatever. And Daniel Bryan bumped on his neck a bunch of times, and it's his neck, and he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think he knows what the fuck he's doing. And everybody on Twitter was like, oh my God, this is so dangerous. Drew Gulak is going to kill him. Oh, and all this shit. And I get it. They're concerned or whatever, but they're trained to do that. I mean, Daniel Bryan, come on. And so one of the things that makes a small female wrestler somebody who I love watching, if they do this right, is they bump really hard and it looks like they've been killed. Like Sasha Banks is awesome at that. How many times have you watched Sasha Banks match and been like, I know she's dead. I know she is, And that's the magic trick, right? So Haley Cromwell, not only is she a witch, but she was also a magician. And she was performing the magic trick on us, Pretty good.
Yeah. She really fooled me.
I love it. It's awesome. So,
well,
all right.
Of magic trick. So we had a couple. I think we had our first elimination. I believe Dream Boy eliminated, or no, yeah, Dream Boy eliminated Slade.
And all the way around.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was.
Dream Boy eliminated by Slade. I'm sorry, I can't read.
And then Pizza Cat eliminates Kim, or is eliminated by Kim. But not Alice, different person. Haley, she is like getting set up to take this like devastating maneuver by Dino Dude and Dakota, and she freezes time. She does her magic trick where she's able to freeze time, and then rearranges them so that I don't know, the Iffy boys can capitalize on it. But it was cool that in this Bizarro Lucha universe, they're able to do like these kind of like bizarre things where they incorporate magic tricks and like sometimes goofy stuff that wouldn't go over with mainstream wrestling. So I appreciate that.
Anything can happen, In fact, some guys that are dressed up like plague doctors can just appear out of nowhere and attack Iffy and make them brawl to the back. That could happen out of nowhere. What do you think of that?
So I had seen on social media there had been an emergence of a new doctor in the Bizarro universe that I guess Magnanimous went to school with. His name is Dr. Artibus Nihilio, Nihilo, Nihilio, who I guess he's going to have a new group where he's really hard to read because literally all of his tweets are backwards. And so, God, he's exhausting already. So I already know he's going to be very exhausting in the future to deal with. But yeah, he brings his henchmen out, and they're dressed like they just got back from, the a Halloween store. They're full black outfits, have their face covered, and they brawl with the Iffy Boys to the back, and they are not to be seen again.
Yeah, so I guess they're eliminated, but
it's never announced that they're eliminated.
There's no countouts. So that was weird, but I mean, it is what it is. We're doing some story stuff there, which honestly, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, but that's one thing that I thought we would have a lot more of at Bizarro is more story stuff. There hasn't been a ton of it. And you know, I was expecting when we went there, I was expecting like a lot more skits and a lot more talking and stuff like that, which I'm glad we didn't get because I fucking hate it when talking goes on for too long. And that's ironic because I host a podcast, but you know, that's not, you know, that's what podcasts are. And wrestling, you know, is supposed to have some talking, but most of it's supposed to be in the ring. So I do like that they're telling all the story in the ring. I do like that. I just expected more of, pardon me.
Uh-oh.
More of
Good
it.
thing we're quarantined.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, I don't get checked out. But I was expecting more of that is all I'm saying. So, but this led us to kind of one of the more fun spots is that we had Dino Dude kind of down in the corner and Dakota runs in, right? And Dakota, it starts fighting with Haley Cromwell, but she uses her magic to try to get him to hit Dino Dude with a skateboard. But Dakota, instead of doing that, he hits himself with the skateboard so that he knocks himself out and therefore he cannot attack. He can't be used against his own team, I guess, basically. He makes the sacrifice, right?
Yeah, because he tries to use magic on her and she's just a powerful witch and she's, you know, not down with that. But he shows that he might have some magic ability himself by being able to reverse her spell a little bit.
Wow. That could be something else, man.
So there is storyline.
Yeah, a few down the road, and we get, you know, was it Sour Man versus Gandalf? I'd like to see something like that, you know.
Yeah.
But that'd be pretty awesome. Anyway, well, who gets the final elimination, and then the match ends? What happens here?
Yeah, so Dino Dude after actually I don't think Dakota was eliminated, but
No?
Dino Dude picks up Haley and like smashes her down to the ground. I think he does like a power bomb onto his knee to her, and then he's able to eliminate her. And Dino Dude and Dakota are the sole survivors of their team.
Yeah, and okay, so I guess that's fine. It was fine, you know. Like I said, I mean, I love Adam Slade, so anytime I get to see him wrestle's awesome. I like to see Dino Dude. He's pretty. I mean, like I said, they're really good baby faces. Pizza Cat and Jonathan Wolf are awesome. Sean Kemp's great. And Formulation 001 Dream Boy seems like he needs to have a drink. He needs to drink a beer. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think it would really help him out.
Loosen up a little bit, you know? Just my opinion. So what was the next match, John?
Our next match was for the AAW Heavyweight Championship. It was Mance Warner going against Atticus Kogar.
Now, wasn't there also some kind of money in the bank type situation going on here? Do you know anything about that?
So I know the last show, Atticus won the 13-man Royal Rumble, and so he's now has a shot at the Bizarro Lucha, the Luchaverso title, whenever he wants. But I don't know if it was on the line necessarily. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was or not, just because of the kind of continuing rivalry that we had between these two that kind of goes throughout the entire night. Mance Warner, tremendous wrestler. You know, obviously that was a big reason why we wanted to go to this show, is just to see him. We want to see him as much as possible because who knows when we won't be able to see him anymore, because he'll be on TV and, you know, won't be taking indie dates anymore. That's probably going to happen sooner than later. You know, and Atticus Kogar is a guy on the rise who is somebody we're seeing more and more get pushed up the card every single place that we see him. Really happy to see all these guys. You know, the first time I saw Atticus, I think, was in 2017 at Remix Pro, and he's in a tag team there called The Culmination. And our co-host Dean, who we both think that we are today, he was in love with this guy. He was like, oh my God, that guy is amazing, you know. So Dean has this awesome, he can sniff out talent like as soon as he sees it, and like he's always been a big fan of this guy, and it's got to be pretty fun for him to see him, succeeding and everything. But this was kind of a hardcore match. It wasn't really a wrestling match. It was pretty much a fight because these guys hate each other, right, John?
Yeah, and Atticus, I just want to point out, he terrifies me.
He came out wearing a face that looked kind of like your face without the beard, John.
I know, he scares me, man. I get nervous about him.
Well, I mean, you're way bigger than him. He got it. That's fine. It doesn't
matter when you're like a psychopath. So.
That's true. He is definitely a psychopath, no doubt about it. So, well, I mean, these guys hate each other, so we can't just start the match. We got to have a hot shot start where they just start fucking each other up, And we get all kinds of shoot headbutts. At one point during the match, it just becomes the wrestlers, they tag up versus a door because this fucking door would not break. And, it's kind of anticlimactic when you set up this big spot in the corner with the door and you're getting German suplexed and speared and all this stuff. And every time you hit it, it's just boing. And that's kind of what we had, right?
Yeah, I think Mance tried to put Atticus through it 3 times in one corner, and it would not budge. And so Atticus eventually kind of gets the upper hand, and he moves the door to another corner, and then he's able just to suplex Mance through it. And the crowd is pissed because they were waiting for Atticus to go through it, not Mance.
Well, that was some good on-the-fly shit, by the way, because what Atticus did to make that door finally break is he just ripped the front part of it off. So, and then he used the pieces to like stab Mance Warner, which I love that. One of my favorite things ever is breaking something and using the pieces to stab your opponent with. That's awesome. So he did all that, put him through the door finally. That fucking door, though, man. I bet you Levi Everett made it, and that's why it's so high quality,
Yeah, he's the master craftsman.
Well, he needs to take it down a notch when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, I mean, he can't. He's Amish, and that's just how that works. So you can't. I don't know.
Right. But use less oak, more balsa wood.
Now, we also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but this was a AAW heavyweight championship match as well. Mance Warner is the current champion at AAW, which is one of those like just fucking awesome promotions in the Chicago area that we just haven't been able to get to. But goddamn, I want to go. It supposedly has one of the best venues in wrestling. It's just a great place. And so he's the champion there. I think he beat Sami Callihan, I think, is who he beat for the title. And you got him. What's that?
Said thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, I'm at the finish here. I mean, what kind of spots do you have from this? Because this is some crazy shit here.
So Mance is able to get his door spot in. So he sets up the other half of the door that Atticus already ripped apart, and he spears Atticus through that. There's a spot where Atticus basically just hands Mance a chair, and then he just boots the shit out of it, and it ricochets off of Mance's face. It looks real brutal. There's another spot where Mance had Atticus hanging up on the top rope by just his feet, and there was a chair set up underneath, and he kind of hit like a cutter into the top of the chair. Ouch. On Atticus's face. It was a real nasty looking spot, but that's about it. Just all these violent spots.
Yeah, it was just a hardcore match where they just killed each other. I kind of like the Levi Everett versus Mance match a little better, but that's because we were there. I think if we were there, we would have liked this match a lot more. Because these kinds of matches are more for the live crowd than they are the people that are watching hundreds of miles away, quarantined in their, world headquarters and whatnot. So, but who got the win, John?
Mance Warner is able to pick up the victory and retain his title with a DDT onto a large pile of chairs and doors.
Kind of the writing was on the wall as to who was going to win this. We know there's no countouts. We know there's no, DQs and stuff like that. So, Mance this match, otherwise Atticus is the AAW champion. I don't even know if he's wrestled there before. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that usually doesn't happen. But after the match, we had basically Mance Warner decides he's going to kill Atticus Cogar, and but Haley Cromwell comes out and she prevents him. I think she uses a little magic on him, she throws a fireball at at Mance. That's right. And okay, John, do you know about the fireball in wrestling? What do you know about that?
I mean, I've seen it a few times. I've seen Kane use it, or just like blinds the guys, but other than that, I've only seen it maybe once or twice. Not too often.
It's usually reserved for heel managers, but it's, other heel wrestlers can do it too. And it's one of those things that you have to, not only do you have to have a manager's license or a wrestler's license to be in those categories of people, you also have to learn some of the evil arts of being an evil wrestler or an evil manager. And one of the kind of like top tier things is throwing a fireball. Gary Hart threw fireballs. We've seen Jerry Lawler throw fireballs. I mean, and it's funny. Then Hulk Hogan tries to do it, and he can't even use the lighter. So I mean, it just goes to show you he decided he wanted to go ahead and do it, and he didn't get the training. I remember I was talking to JT Davidson one time about how to do the fireball, and he told me that he couldn't tell me because you have to go to like manager school and you have to learn that. That's a dark art of pro wrestling. So, I thought it was pretty awesome. I love the fireball. It was executed perfectly. And if it wasn't, we couldn't tell because they had a perfect camera angle from behind Haley. You want that shot from behind the person throwing it because then you can see the person's face. Mance sold it perfect. And then Levi came out to help Mance to the back, right?
Yeah, buddy.
That was pretty cool. I love that. What do you think about that? What do you think about the fireball, John?
I enjoy it, especially if it's done right, and it was. So it looks brutal because it looks like they catch their face on fire. I think if Mance had a longer beard like I do, then it might have potentially caught his beard on fire.
Well, I mean, they say you're supposed to cut that thing off anyway, or so I mean, probably should, right?
That's why I'm self-quarantined, so I don't have to shave it.
All right. Well, this next match, I'm going to be relying on you quite a bit for this one because you, unlike myself, have become pretty good friends with Nick Iggy. He hates our podcast, by the way, because he recently just told me, fuck you, on Twitter. That's what it says. It's from Nick Iggy to the podcast Twitter. It says, fuck you. So good.
Literally
good
moments ago.
Yeah, so that's good. And that's because I told on him for saying fuck Danhausen on the commentary. And he called me a cop. He called me a cop caller too, but Danhausen's not a police officer, so that's not. I didn't call the cops. I don't know. So I don't know.
At some point, I think Danhausen's gonna pick up being like a mall cop. And the hard times we're in right now, he's definitely gonna become mall security.
Yes, hello. You're kicked out of the mall. That would be great. So, anyway, well, who was in this match, John?
Okay, so we had flying all the way from Australia just to fight Nick Iggy because he's that much of a bastard at times, was Shaza McKenzie. She's Heartbreak Core. I believe that's what her new catchphrase is.
Okay. She's from Australia, and she had a bunch of dates lined up. And I think this is the first one or the second one. And after this match, she decided she had to fly back to Australia. Otherwise, she would have got stuck here in America, So she had to go back, and obviously all her dates got canceled anyway. So hopefully she'll get to make it back to America at some point and kick Nick Iggy in the fucking face is what we're hoping. So, or at least I am. John, I know you're kind of...
A little hesitant.
I know. You're a big fan of his. You and him are watching The Bachelor together. Is that right?
We did trade some tweets about The Bachelor. It's a very riveting show. I believe everyone should watch it. It's a dumpster fire worth the entertainment value.
Just like Nick Iggy.
Okay, easy now. And so Shaza, her opponent, was Nick Iggy, everyone's favorite wrestler in Bizarro Lucha, from what I understand.
Well, I'm a little disappointed in you, John, because you had really worked hard on celebrating Nick Iggy's birthday last time we were at Bizarro Lucha, and you didn't say anything about it. You haven't said anything about it. I guarantee you're not wearing that stupid party hat right now anymore, are you?
I can actually verify that it is still in the console of my car. So I wore it the entire way home. I now keep it in my car and anytime I go into the little console, I have that special memory of the first Bizarro Lucha show and celebrating one of the greatest, and Indiana wrestlers. Even though he's not from Indiana, he's still one of the greatest Indiana wrestlers, Nick Iggy.
Well, anyway. This match is pretty obvious who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. I mean, Shaza is like, super babyface, and Nick Iggy's being the biggest asshole of all time. And that's kind of what he does, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a pretty standard match as far as that goes. I thought it was well executed. Do you have any kind of spots you want to talk about?
I agree. It's a pretty standard, fair match. One of the spots is at the very beginning. Nick Iggy comes out with a bottle of Lysol and literally goes around the entire crowd, sprays every single person, gets in the ring, sprays the ropes, sprays the turnbuckles, gets back out and starts spraying more people in the crowd. Because he's got to, he's protecting himself and protecting other people from themselves. Because, I don't know if Indiana people can really keep up with all the health code stuff right now, and he's just trying to help them out.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people from Indiana. They're disgusting, so I get it. That does make sense. I will get behind Nick Iggy on this. Also, though, I do have to kind of call attention to the fact that later on in the match, he intentionally stuck his fingers in Shaza's mouth.
Yeah.
Which is kind of not smart. I mean, if she has that, then now he has it too. So,
well, he had gloves on, so he can take those gloves off, and he's good.
Fair enough. Maybe the gloves had Lysol. He had soaked his hands in Lysol, put the gloves on, soaked the gloves in Lysol, soaked the crowd in Lysol, the ring and her face, and then it's safe, right?
Yeah, because that's total protection right there.
Okay. What else you got?
So yeah, like you said, it was kind of a standard match. Nick Iggy hit a nice full Nelson slam on Shaza at one point. He is able to do his I think it's like a submission move where he just hooks their mouth and pulls it apart.
Fish hook, yeah.
Yeah, to make them smile because they're supposed to be entertained because he's the ringleader of the circus, and I like that move. And then Shaza is able to hit a nice Satuo. Is that how you say it?
What is it?
A Satuo. I mean, it's basically like a suplex from behind, but whatever.
German suplex?
Not exactly, because they kind of she holds him from the side and then spins around back.
A Saito suplex.
Yeah, Saito. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one too. It was a big one.
Yeah. And then Nick Iggy hits a nice springboard cutter where he jumps from the outside into the inside turnbuckle, bounces off the second rope, and then catches her with it. And she wasn't really expecting it.
But she kicked out at 1. That's the thing. So we got to get our I don't know. Everybody's got to kick out at 1 in one of these matches, So she kicks out at 1 there. Nick Iggy's like, well, fuck this shit. And he goes and gets a chair. But he gets kicked in the face while he's holding the chair, and it hits him right in the dome. And then Shaza rolls him up and gets the win. What you think of that, John?
It's fair. I mean, she flew all the way from Australia. I think Nick felt bad because she had dates canceled, and he wanted her to at least get one victory on this tour. So, he could have kicked out at 1, but he felt bad for her, so he let her win.
He threw her bone, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Seems unlikely, but it is what it is. So, so Shaza gets the win, and hopefully we'll see her again in America. I don't know when this was, but we'll just throw it in here. We'll just say this was single intermission right here. I don't know when intermission was. I'm not sure because we weren't there. But John, how has the coronavirus affected your wrestling life? Let's talk about that real quick.
So, I mean, I love going to independent shows on the weekends. It's no shock if I go to at least 2 a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, sometimes Fridays. So it forced me to have to hang out with my normal friends.
Ugh, yuck.
This past weekend. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on, people? You guys still accept me as a friend? And they said yes. And so I got invited to 2 different game nights on Friday and Saturday. It was a
Wow.
little surprising, but it was nice to get out of the house and not be stuck inside. How about you?
Well, I mean, for me, unfortunately, I've continued to have to go to work because the company I work for values profit over people. So, and they're not going to close unless everything gets closed, which I'm hoping happens today or tomorrow, because I sure would like to play video games for 2 weeks. So that's what I'm hoping happens. Hope everybody's okay out there. This whole thing is, we can all joke about it and everything, but it's kind of scary. And I hope everybody's okay and being safe and doing everything that they can and being responsible. It just kind of is what it is. And I don't know what to make all of this. I don't have any answers. And even if I did, I wouldn't get your answers from me. So, go to reputable sources like the CDC and stuff like that for your advice. Don't go to Facebook for your advice. Don't go to Twitter for your advice. It has been kind of fun to watch social media and see how everyone has all the answers to this stuff, and the conspiracy theories are running wild, brother. And it's very interesting. But I tell you what, I'm just going to take care of mine, and I hope that everybody out there is okay, and I hope that pro wrestling returns soon, because I got to tell you, watching the show on TV was very fun and it was very comfortable, but it was nothing like seeing it live. And that's the big problem that I have with this whole situation is that, we had a whole month of shows slated and they all got canceled, so it just sucks because all these wrestlers have lost money. And that's another thing too. If you know a wrestler, if you have any extra money or if you're doing okay financially, go buy a t-shirt. Now is the time. Don't buy our t-shirt. I mean, you can if you want, but go buy some of these independent wrestlers t-shirts that we're talking about on this show. Because man, they have lost their income. Imagine that. They lost all their income. So, think about that, how that might affect you in your life, and maybe throw them a bone like Nick Iggy threw Shaza a bone. So, anything else, John?
No, I liked how you reused my joke there. It was fun. No, yeah, I agree. Definitely get out there and try and support any of the wrestlers if you can.
Don't get out there. Yeah, don't get out there.
Nicky is selling a joke book. It's called No Punchlines, where it's a bunch of different independent wrestlers. They gave him jokes and he compiled them into a book. He's selling them for $13, and that's with shipping included.
God, that book should be called "Get Your Own Shit." I mean, he's just stealing other people's jokes. The fuck it, Nick Iggy, come on.
That is true. I was disappointed because that's one of the things I was going to get at this show was that book, and we were going to talk Bachelor, but I didn't get to make it, so I had to, go about and buy it that way, and it's getting shipped to me. And I was hoping it was going to be here today so I could tell jokes, but
oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
It didn't come.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, well, that was single intermission, and after that, we had a very interesting match. Who was in this with, John?
It was Gary J versus the Bastard Cassidy.
Yeah, so this is Trip Cassidy's younger brother. I've seen him around, He's one of those guys I've seen kind of helping out at shows for a year, maybe longer now. And he's kind of hard to miss because he's a gigantic ginger. And this match was for ginger supremacy. Gary J, the stiff robo ginger, versus the giant ginger, Bastard Cassidy. John, how many chops were in this match, you think?
I'm going to give you an over-under, and you tell me what you think.
Okay. Did you count them?
No. But
well, that's important.
It's a strong... Yes, I counted them.
Okay, great. Awesome.
We're going to set the over-under at 21.5.
Oh, way over. Way over.
Yeah, you're right, because it was more like 67.3.
Wow. How did you get 0.3?
They just use their fingertips instead of the whole hand at one point. So.
It was just a mistake. Somebody botched something, so that's 0.3. I gotcha. Well, so Bastard Cassidy is a guy who this is his second match or something like that. So, when you have someone in this situation, you want to protect them. You want to put them with somebody who's going to make them look awesome, especially if you have plans for this person in the future. And that's why you put this guy with Gary J, because Gary J is a tremendous wrestler, and 99% of what Gary J does in the ring is stuff to make his opponent look awesome. That's all he does. So that's what this match was all about. And as you were saying, there were so many chops. I mean, obviously, we have to talk about the almost injuries that were kind of had by this chops. Tell me about Bastard Cassidy's chest.
So he kept going back at Gary J the entire time. And Gary J, I think, with the 67.3 chops, I think Gary J hit, I think it was about 44.1 of those chops. And so by the end of the match, Cassidy's chest was literally like bright red, like fluorescent red from all of the chops from Gary. Like, there's a difference between how red his chest was and how red his hair was. Like, that's how distinctive his bloody looking chest looked.
Yeah, it was almost like every shade of red and black and purple, even his chest. There was like certain parts of it that were dark purple, and then there were parts of it that were very red and parts of it that were like blood red. I mean, it was a subdermal hematoma, if you will, and it was a lot of it. So Gary J's kind of used to that, so his, he got chopped a lot too, but it didn't quite turn, that color. It's just crazy. So we had, Gary selling his ass off in this match, some power moves, as well as, returning chops from the Bastard himself. And I really want to give Bastard Cassidy some props on that apron bump. So he was kind of leaned over on the apron, and Gary J went to the top rope and hit him with a double stomp, and he did a tremendous front face bump right on the apron corner. It was awesome. I really liked that. What kind of spots did you like in this match?
Bastard hit a really nice gut wrench suplex that pretty much went from one side of the ring to the other because he basically just threw Gary J across the ring with it. Gary J was able to hit a nice diving flatliner, which flatliners are like, those are weird moves that don't always look good when they're done. Like, there's one wrestler that we've seen where he looks like he has so much joy when he's doing a flatliner. Like, he's like, and Gary J's did not look like that. It was very devastating because he just drove Bastard's face into the mat like as hard as he could. And then Bastard even hit a really nice pop-up powerbomb that wasn't necessarily a sit-out powerbomb for the pin, but after he kind of just stayed hovering over Gary J and pinned his shoulders to the ground to try and get a pinfall, but he wasn't successful.
That was one of those power bombs where Gary J just power bombed himself, basically, which was awesome. I love seeing that. That's always great. And like you said, Bastard Cassidy just kind of leaned over and got the pin, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, where Gary J is doing everything he can to sell his ass off and protect this kid and make him look like a monster. Really cool stuff. Anything else?
No, just the finish.
What happened at the end?
So Bastard goes up top and he tries to hit a moonsault, a top rope moonsault. This guy is huge, and he tries to hit a top rope moonsault on Gary J, but Gary's able to move out of the way, and once Bastard kind of collects himself and gets back up, he catches a roaring elbow to the face, and it's good for the 1-2-3, and Gary J picks up the victory.
Yeah, and big respect to to Bastard Cassidy after the match. There's a real strong possibility that this kid has got a lot of relationships with people in the crowd because everyone was just blown away by this. They were all so happy for him and everything, and that's awesome, man. It's great to see, someone debut in a way that is, good. We see a lot of debuts where people get squashed. And that's not how you do it. You know what I mean? This is the right way to do it, where this Bastard Cassidy character now has something to build on. I like it. It was a lot of fun. John, you've seen Gary J a bunch of times now. He's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, he is stiff as all get out. He's probably one of the most stiff wrestlers I've seen, in this area.
Tough motherfucker. It's great. So, all right, what was the next match?
Our next match was supposed to be a Fans Bring the Weapons match, pitting Dale Patricks versus Levi Everett, but I don't think I saw a single fan with a weapon in their hands the entire show.
Well, typically, I don't know if you've been to a fans bring the weapons match, but usually you give those to them before the match. So, usually there's a bucket or something towards the front, the entrance, and you kind of dump all of them in there, and then the wrestlers can kind of go through it. But I did not see any contraptions or anything made by the fans. I think that the Bizarro Luchaverse army or whatever you want to call it, they kind of dropped the ball on this. But John, I mean, you had a plan, you executed the plan, and the coronavirus fucked your plan in the ass. What happened here?
I had the most perfect weapons plan for this match. So I saw that Levi was in this match, and I thought, I need to represent for my boy and show him that I support him. And so I thought, what better way to support him than is to make weapons out of, stuff that he might sell at his merch table. So I went to Michaels.com, found some birdhouses that looked almost as good a quality as Levi's, but not quite. And I purchased them. I went to the store, picked them up, but I also purchased some thumbtacks alongside that. And so I got home, I busted out the glue gun and started gluing thumbtacks to the top of one of the birdhouses that has 3 different houses on it. And so I even spiced it up. I had one that had like an LE and thumbtacks on it. One side had like a B, and the other side had an L, like Bizarro Lucha. And then the top just had a 4x4 rows of thumbtacks. And like just putting your hand on them, it did hurt. But I knew it was going to do some damage. And then what I was going to do with the rest of the thumbtacks, I was just going to put them in this little like front yard fenced in area. That way, if they wanted to spill them all across the ring, they could. And then the other birdhouse that I had, I recruited my dad, who's good at like woodworking, and he attached a handle, like a rod, to the bottom of it so that it could be used as like a bat or a club. And so we shaved off some of the sides so it wouldn't be so sharp. And then we took off the little rod that the bird would like sit on, so that didn't like poke anybody's eye out. But they're both like pretty badass, and I don't know what to do with them now because no bird can get into the one, and then the other one has thumbtacks. I'm not trying to murder any birds.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're trying, Levi's out there making the birdhouses, trying to, fix the whole homeless problem in the bird population of the world. And, but just so you guys know, the artwork for this episode will be a picture of these weapons. So you'll see that. All you got to do is just, you've already clicked on the link, so you kind of should be able to see it anyway. But point is that this is tremendous. This is some of the best weapons I've ever seen, and some of the most creative weapons ever. And they didn't get used, but here's why they're awesome. They look awesome. They look like they hurt. They will hurt, and they would make a noise and explode when someone would hit them. So if you would have hit somebody with that, it would explode and go everywhere and make a great noise. That's what you want out of a wrestling weapon. So maybe next time. But man, those Bizarro Lucha fans really let Levi and Dale down. I'll tell you what. But so that's who we had. We had Dale Patricks versus Levi Everett in a fans bring the weapons match. And did you notice that Levi's Everett's entrance was a little different?
Yeah, he didn't shake any hands. He just did elbow bumps instead, which is very smart. So the coronavirus the information about it has even made its way to the Amish country. So that's how you know it's a big deal.
That's awesome. So, I mean, this match was sick bumps and chair shots the match. I mean, we had Dale Patricks taking bumps on the concrete and, unbelievable. And all these chair shots to the head and shit. No weapons, though. Like I said, I'm kind of disappointing, man. No fancy weapons. But, Stepstool Sarah was on commentary for this match, and she said something that we've said many times on the podcast, and that is that, Dale Patrick needs to get his ass out. I mean, that's just what you want from a Dale Patrick match. If he's in there wrestling, he doesn't have his ass out, I mean, the fuck are we doing? So he, what happened was Levi noticed, that the crowd's there, Dale's there, he's there, Dale's ass is not visible. So what did Levi do to make sure that the crowd could see his ass?
He hit a sunset flip and pulled down Dale's trunks to make sure that everyone could see his ass.
But
Right?
what did he? Yeah, he did. And did you see what he did next? This is kind of crazy, Levi.
Yeah, so I don't know if a fan brought this or if Levi brought it because he's a fan of Dale Patrick, so which means he could technically bring a weapon. He got a pitchfork out from like under the ring and rears it up and pokes Dale in the butthole with it.
He's the devil. He's poking people in the tuchus with his little pitchfork, you know? I was blown away by that. That looked like it hurt. Another ridiculous bump was Dale climbed to the top rope like Ric Flair, and there was a trash can on the ground sitting face down, basically, not on its side, face down, like the parts that are going to hurt the most are sticking straight up, and
Yeah.
Dale Patrick is thrown off the top rope and just kind of clips the edge of it, and you saw the edge of it just rolled over, and Dale was like, ow, my back, and I'm like, yeah, that probably looked like it hurt pretty bad. I don't know. What do you think about this? Like, aren't you supposed to do it the other way where it's like laying on its side? It looks like it hurts really fucking bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Levi kind of, was like, "Oh, I'm going to do some damage here. I'm going to use the hardest part of the trash can." But yeah, it looks so brutal. Like I get squeamish like seeing it because I've seen it before, and I get nervous because that's like where the seam is at. So like if that seam comes undone, then like that's like really dangerous to get cut on. But hey, the fans bring the weapons, so let there be blood.
Dale doesn't give a fuck.
So he's got so many scars already.
Yes.
Another one.
Now he's got a scar in his ass, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, Jesus. So Levi ends up hitting some moves here. I mean, tell me about this win. Who won? That is what I'm trying to ask you. Sorry.
So they set up 2 chairs, put a door, one of the Japanese doors that refused to break. They put it in between the 2 chairs. They battled out on the top rope. Levi is eventually able to hit an Amish destroyer through the door, and then he goes back up and hits a flying headbutt for the win.
Yeah, so Levi gets the win. He's getting built. I would expect that Levi to be the champion of Bizarro Lucha within 6 months or so. Don't you think?
Yeah, by the end of this season, I would say.
Seems like the most likely event because he's really getting built up. The crowd's so behind him. I mean, they can't like him anymore, than they do. It's just awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go from here. But what was the next match, John?
Our next match was probably the most athletic. It's not probably. Well, no. I guess the first match would also be a potential contender for the most athletic match of the night. It was Lee Moriarty versus Ace Perry.
Yes. This is one of those matches when you see it advertised, you go, oh, yeah, well, that's going to be fucking as good as it gets, And, I mean, and it was. Ace Perry has been a staple in the Indiana area for quite some time. Lee Moriarty's kind of the new guy. In a lot of ways, they are very similar wrestlers. They wrestled at, flippy junior heavyweight style. Lee Moriarty's more of a kind of, combat artist, and Ace Perry's a little more of a flippy guy. But goddamn, they do a lot of the same stuff. They're both smooth as hell, and this was one of the best wrestled matches on the show. I fucking loved it. It was awesome. I mean, it's like 2 guys at the top of their game just pushing each other to the limit. It's about as good as it gets. I mean, what'd you think, John?
I kept thinking to myself while watching this match, I kept going, how are neither of these 2 signed to like a bigger company? Because they're both so athletic. They're really charismatic. Like they can interact with the crowd really well, especially Ace Perry. He's really good at getting underneath the crowd's skin. Which this is only my second time seeing Lee Moriarty, so I'm not super familiar with him. But Ace Perry, like, I know that his character, he can be like a complete asshole. And so I still am just confused how neither of them have like had a breakout yet.
This isn't the best Lee Moriarty match I've seen, but it's pretty close. It's up there. The best one I've seen was the one from AIW where it was up against Alex Shelley. That shit is just fucking outrageously good, and somehow it's better than this. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that this match is so awesome. The striking's great. The running the rope spot's great. The dives are great. The match is great. Only thing I kind of had a beef with was at the end. We had to make everybody look ridiculously strong. And I just, when you do something like this, I think it makes, instead of making someone look strong, it makes the other guy look weak, because we had Ace Perry hit 5 cutters, but Lee kicks out, and then he goes for a 6th cutter, and then Lee gets the win out of that. It was a lot to take and then act like it's no big deal. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I agree, because he kept hitting, because that's Ace Perry's finisher, isn't it?
Yeah.
The cutter, because he typically does 3 different versions of it, and then that gets the victory. So when they went to the 4th and the 5th, I'm like, how has he not won yet? And then when he doesn't win, I was even more confused. He just hit 5, and one of them was ridiculous looking, because he does a springboard off the top rope, backwards into Lee, and gets a cutter from the top, and it doesn't win. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think it does the opposite of what you want it to do. Instead of making Lee look strong, it makes Ace's moves look weak, and therefore him weak, which I don't think he is. And so, I don't like this finish, but it worked, it's fine. And the other thing, that the one psychology thing, there was one psychology thing that happened in this match, and that was that Lee Moriarty kind of had been softening up Ace's arm throughout the whole match. And so on that 6th cutter, he caught him in an arm bar and got him to tap out, which is the way that he won, which is a great psychology deal. But I mean, how was he even conscious to do that? That's kind of the issue that I have. But it is what it is. I mean, it's fucking wrestling. It's Bizarro Lucha. Someone was casting spells earlier, and dudes were getting poked in the ass with a pitchfork. So I'm old man yelling at cloud, I guess. But anyway, well, what'd you think? Anything else you want to talk about with this one?
Just one more really cool spot that I enjoyed, where Ace Perry was on the top rope and Lee was kind of hanging inside the ring from the second, kind of crouched on in between the ropes. Perry from the top hits a double stomp on the back of Lee's head, rolls back over, and then catches him with a double knees to the chest. It was a really nice sequence of moves, I thought.
Gotcha. Well, these guys rule. If you see them out there, or can catch them in the future, months down the road, whenever all this is blown over, definitely catch these guys wrestling, because they're both awesome and they rule. So what was the next match, John?
Our next match was Alley Cat versus Trip Cassidy.
That's right. Now, I have a note here. It says that this is a bittersweet rival. And the reason that I say that is because they hate each other in storyline, but they're friends outside of it, and sometimes that bleeds into the ring, because they showed during the intermission or whatever, they showed a match that they had previously had at Southern Underground Pro, and it was kind of weird because it was there's a lot of the same spots in the match and everything too, so it was kind of like watching the same match twice. I mean, it literally was watching the same match twice, but I kind of like the one from Southern Underground Pro a little better, so I don't know why. Just kind of, but I think both these wrestlers are awesome. Alley Cat is I just love her. I think she's so awesome. Everyone I know that has met her or talked to her says she's just a tremendous person, and she busts her ass. And I remember seeing her at IWA Mid-South years ago, and she was not good at all. It was not good. Now, her opponent was also not very good either, and I don't remember who it was, but the match was just kind of yikes. But, man, she's gotten so much better, and she's just one of the best independent wrestlers out there. I mean, what'd you think of all this?
So I've seen both of them just a few times, but I'm still not super familiar with either of them. I think that's just because Trip isn't really around as much anymore, and Allie, Indiana's not her home state, right?
I don't think so. I'm not sure where she's from, honestly.
But I mean, the matches I've seen them in have been good. I remember Trip's match last month against Lee Moriarty was fantastic. And the few times I've seen Alley Cat, she's been really entertaining. So I was interested to see where this goes.
Well, and we had some mind games going on at the beginning of this because during Alley Cat, she came out to some kind of like freaked out version of Trip Cassidy's theme song, which is I Think I'm Alone Now. Who's that by? It's like a girl's name. It's just one name. I can't remember her name. Tiffany, that's right. I love that song. I remember when that song came out as a kid and I fucking lost my mind. Did you know it's a remake?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's actually was written by the Turtles. And let me check that because I could be wrong. Maybe it's not the Turtles, it's somebody else. Because I think I said this once a while back, and Doris from NWF yelled at me about it because it's let me look this up real quick because it's definitely a remake, but it may not be the Turtles.
I just know last month when we saw him, I listened to I Think We're Alone Now minimum of 15 times the next day. Like I was just at work in the like decontam side of my job and just had it on repeat. And then I tried to listen to other Tiffany songs and they're like, these are garbage.
They're not good, yeah. So it was written and performed by Tommy James and the Shondells. It's from the 60s, so it's an old song from 67. So go back and listen to the original, and then if you really want to have fun, go listen to the Weird Al version. I Think I'm a Clone Now. That is fucking hilarious. So, he's like, it feels like I'm really beside myself. I'm sorry, part of some geneticist plan. Born to be a carbon copy man. It's tremendous. It's really funny. Born in a
petri.
So
you're saying that Dr. Magnanimous might have listened to that song.
He may have.
He was in college, and that's where all the formulations came from.
Yes.
They're all clones.
Absolutely. 100%. It is fucking awesome. So I love that. This match was good, I mean, it was like I wish that I hadn't seen the match 2 minutes before this one started. That was kind of, I wish I had just kind of walked away, but I honestly had looked away from the screen and I thought that they were having the same match twice in the same night. And I texted you and I was like, why are they wrestling again?
Yeah, you texted me like, didn't we already see this match? And I was like, yeah, that was the intermission match. This is a different one.
Oh my god, I wasn't paying attention. So anyway, it was really good. Allie is the clear underdog and Trip Cassidy's being an asshole, but she's playing mind games. She needs to get her own shit because she keeps taking his stuff.
Mm-hmm. She does.
Yeah. She nearly gets the win from Don't Be a Hero and a pile driver, but Trip Cassidy kicks out because everybody's a monster and they kick out everything. And then, what happened? Who won?
Trip Cassidy is able to pick up the victory with a tombstone pile driver. And then after the match, he starts cutting a promo to put over Alley Cat. We can't really understand because I think he's got the mic in his mouth and that's
what I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, so if I would have put like subtitles on, I might have been able to understand it, but I also don't think IWTV has subtitles. So
wrestling's for everybody except deaf people. Sorry.
They can watch. They just can't.
They can watch. That's true. Well, either way, no matter what malady we would have had, we wouldn't have understood what he was saying because it was just tough, just the way it was. But yeah, I mean, he clearly loves Alley Cat as a person, and we all do. So I'm happy. But I don't understand why Tripp has to win every single one of his matches that we've seen so far. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird when you win the match and then put the person over on the mic. It's like, well, but why don't you just put him over in the ring? I don't know. But that's just me. I'm just being an a-hole. So then that leads to the main event, John. Who was in the main event?
The main event was for the Luchaversal Championship. It was the current champion, Calvin Tankman, going against Formulation 006. Is this Malthus? That sounds like somebody's nerdy cousin. That doesn't sound right. I think it is right, but maybe I'm not saying it right.
It's definitely right. It's definitely right.
Okay, well, it definitely sounds like someone's like nerdy cousin. With Dr. Magnanimous.
I'm going to tell Malthus that you said that. So just so you know. So good luck.
I know. He sounds like a nerdy cousin. He doesn't look like a nerdy cousin.
You're going to end up being formulation number dead. That's what you're going to be. So
0-0.
And we got Calvin Tankman. He's a tank, man. And these two guys are huge. And so they do big guy stuff. And I love this. I thought this match was spectacular. It was my match of the night. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. What'd you think, John?
I thought it was great. I agree. It was definitely a big man match. And they worked a lot of the time outside of the ring. There was honestly not that much action inside the ring. It was more working out there. And there was a spot where Malphus, he finds these plastic chairs in the back of the room. And he grabs one, he unfolds it, and then chucks it at Calvin, who's sitting on the apron. And, like, the chair leg just nails Tankman, like, in the face. And I'm like, ooh.
Direct hit.
Tough spot.
And, yeah, a lot of the stuff they did on the floor, though, wasn't the typical brawling stuff that we'd seen earlier in the night. Like, we had a spear on the floor. We had fucking Malphus run and do the taker dive, out of the ring to the floor. I mean, there was all kinds of shit. It was awesome. I am really high on both these guys. Tankman's someone we've been singing the praises about ever since the podcast started. Malphus is somebody we've just recently seen over the past 6 months. So I'm pretty happy with both these guys, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Any kind of spots you want to talk about, or can we talk about who won? And the only reason we're cutting this one a little short is because this is the main event. You need to go watch this on IWTV. So we're not going to give you everything that happens in this match because we want you to go watch it because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, you kind of touched on the spot that I wanted to talk about. So if you're familiar with like a Myron Reed match, he has this spot where he goes from like one turnbuckle, runs and jumps over it to do like a dive. That's literally what Malphus does. Tankman is in one side of the like audience. Malphus gets in the ring, runs from one side of the turnbuckle, and leaps over for the taker dive. And Malphus is huge. Like, he's a giant man.
Yes.
For him to be able to do this spot, you're like, oh my God.
It's
Like,
crazy.
how fast does he have to be running to be able to do that? Is there a little trampoline underneath the ring right there? Like, it was very impressive.
And that's the whole match. The whole match was like that. You know what I mean? It was Tankman doing shit he has no business doing. It was Malphus doing shit he has no business doing. And them just like treating each other as if they're cruiserweights when they're picking each other up and stuff. I mean, it's like Tankman just easily lifts Malphus up and hits him with a slam. Like, what the fuck? This guy's gigantic, It was awesome. Feats of strength, feats of agility. That's what you want to see, and that's what we saw in this match. Who won, John?
Tankman is able to pick up the victory after nailing Malphus with an elbow to the back of the head, picking him back up like from the ground in a suplex position that immediately goes into a Tankman driver to win.
He's a tank, man.
His like the fact that I keep seeing him hit the Tankman driver just out of like the most random spots is so nice. It's nice to see. Like, typically a move like that, you need a setup to it, but like it's not like a cutter where you can just kind of do it out of nowhere. Like the Tankman driver, he literally has to lift him up, put him on his shoulder, and then drop down. And somehow he keeps surprising me with how he's getting this move like to the final position.
It's a terrifying move, too, especially when he's doing to someone gigantic. So, I mean, it's awesome. They're awesome. They did a great job. But we had some shit go down after the match, the formulations attack. And Atticus Cogar comes out and tries to attack Tankman with him, and he says he wants to cash in. But who comes in and makes the save, John?
Old Manser comes running in with his bandana over his eye because his eyeball has been burned out of its socket, and there's no hospitals that can see him tonight.
He's like, my eye might be burnt, but I'm not going to let Tankman down. Him and Tankman used to drive in a shitty little truck up from Tennessee all the time to IWA Mid-South. So they've been riding buddies for years and years. So makes a lot of sense. Mance comes out. And then Nick Iggy appears because we have Mance and Cogar kind of brawl to the back, and all the formulations go with them. And Nick Iggy comes out, and he's all happy and stuff. And what's he do?
He grabs the title, and you think that he's going to hit Tankman with it, but he just hands it over, puts it on Tankman's shoulder, taps it, and says, hey, respect, you're a great guy, you're a great champion, but just know down the line, I am going to get a rematch for that belt, and I am going to take it back home.
What a sneaky piece of shit. He's like, oh, I'm going to put you over, but just because I want to beat you. You know, I mean, he's lobbying. He is like, he's trying to butter up and brown nose the Calvin Tankman to get a fucking match. What a shithead.
Good. I can't wait to see it.
Tankman's going to kill him.
He is, but I can't wait to see it go down.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, John, how was the experience, watching Bizarro Lucha? Obviously, we didn't get to go. We've talked about all that, but what'd you think of the show? And are you excited for the next one?
I am. Whenever it eventually comes back, I'm looking forward to it, in part because I already have a ticket for it. So that's how excited I am. But Bizarro Lucha might be my new favorite company that we go to now. I thoroughly enjoy all of their shows so far, and it makes me excited for the next one.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for asking. I really loved it too. I thought it was great, and I'm looking forward to going back too. And maybe this time, which I really hope this is the case. Last time we went, it was a double shot because we had to do another show earlier. I hope that if we have one silver lining out of all this bullshit that's going on right now, that those shows don't line up again, and we kind of start to get Bizarro Lucha on different days than these other shows we need to be at, so we can kind of focus all our attention on it. We were kind of thinking how nice it would have been to leisurely go to Indianapolis and hang out and get a decent parking spot and all this kind of stuff that we haven't gotten to experience yet at Bizarro Lucha. Plus, think about how many beers you could have drank, John.
Gosh, so many beers.
So anyway, all right. Well, any other comments, questions, concerns? Where can folks find you on the internet? Let's wrap this one up, John.
You can find me at jhat05 on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat if you want.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks. What's that?
What about you?
Oh, me? Well, you can follow me at Jerusalem Tweets on Twitter, and you can follow our show, The Road Home from Wrestling, at The Road Home FW on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And guess what, John? Guess fucking what?
Chicken butt.
Very good. No, that's not what, but that's very mature of you. And I would like to say that if you guys follow us on Instagram, you're going to see only positive content on there. I can't promise the other two. I'm just intentionally trying to post happy, positive memories and videos and pictures on Instagram just to kind of brighten the day of anyone who looks at them. So check us out on Instagram. All kinds of fun stuff going on there. And then, who knows what we're going to review next. If you guys would like to suggest something, you can contact us via social media, or you can email us, and we may even read it on the goddamn show at theroadhomefw@gmail.com. So for me, John, and all the folks at Bizarro Lucha, thank you so much for listening.
Sayonara.